Just remember, when you do your assessment, it's Spock first, Dr. Phil second. Check it out. Tip number 88. Welcome back to 101 Interviewing Tips for Interviewers and Interrogators. This is tip number 88. And I've referenced Spock and Dr. Phil in making analysis. So let me explain what's going on here. Too often I see in an interview that the interviewer already has his mind made up subjectively what they think has happened or what they think the person was feeling or what they're thinking, and they don't really have ability to focus on any particular area when it's time to move to the persuasion portion of the interrogation. So let me explain what's going on here. Typically when I look at an interview, now, I do consulting work. A lot of agencies send me video or audio to review, and I try to make an assessment for them, give them some guidance as to what to do next or what they need to pick up or what they might have missed within interviews and where to focus their investigative efforts. You can do the same thing live or in a recorded interview during an assessment. So what I do is first, I focus just on the Spock portion of it, or I'm just looking purely for the clinical signs, if you will, just the very, very specific points. I know there's possibly deception here because I see a cluster, or here I see a cluster, or because here I see a cluster, and they keep consistently reacting to this particular points. So don't worry about, if it matches up with anything else they've said or anything like that. I'm looking just for those incriminating potential spikes. Okay? Once I have those, now if you go back and look, we talked in a past episode that the 3 or 4 legs of a case, okay? Look for, we're destabilizing it, I'm just finding the 2 or 3 points the subject has the strongest possible lie points. Most subjects can't sustain, if you remember, if you've been in class with me together, a deceptive story that has more than 3 or 4 main issues to it, or 3 or 4 main areas. I'm just going to look for those. I'm going to be purely clinical on it. If I don't see a symptom there, I'm going to move on. And if I don't see a cluster, I'm going to move on. Once I've done the logic analysis, if you will, by looking at it like Spock, then I can go back and look at Dr. Phil. So now I have these 3 or 4 consistent target areas. What do those 3 or 4 areas tell me? It looks like or sounds like the subject may have, or they had planned, or it appears, or that they're being driven by, and now I've narrowed my persuasive argument. It looks like these particular points, and here's what I believe the subject may have done. So the Dr. Phil side is far more subjective on my part. But I can limit wandering, and I can limit missing and just, try to carpet bomb everything, by only looking first for the logic of Spock. Here are the key points. See that? So now once I find out, was he or she in or out of the car? Okay? Or they said they weren't involved in the physical part of the crime, for example, is what I'm looking at right now. The Texas murders of the 2 academy kids that murdered the young girl in Texas, and it took a year to break the case. She makes a statement, the girl, Diane Zamora, in my opinion, I was not involved in the physical part of the case. So I'm thinking, all right, something's wrong there with the physical part. She used surgical denial. So I move along and hear more points and say, okay, it looks like here she's trying to say she wasn't involved in the physical, but she may have been obviously involved in a planning process. So now I can go back. Let's talk about the planning process. Let's talk about here. In a review I did of the Emily DeFreeze case, which is in Virginia, a young woman accused and convicted of killing her boyfriend's 20-month-old daughter. When she's asked about, walk me through the events of the day, I noticed her timeline is very vague, where everything else she's talked about is very clear. And so I see this block of time that was vague, and all of a sudden there's this 30-minute block. And she's very specific, mentions this 30 minutes when the 8-year-old child is in the house alone with the victim, and claims that then she came in and found out. So, okay, why are we vague all the way through here in just this block? So now I found that is my target that I want to explore further and want to engage her in a conversation, see if I can raise the cognitive load. Follow that? Okay, so go through the logical with Spock. Don't do any emotion part to it. Don't do subjective part to it. Find those key points. Then work only on those 2 or 3 points. Spock, then Dr. Phil. Okay? Try it, see what happens. And watch what it does. It reduces your workload as you only don't waste time on looking at everything and try to do a global analysis. And you won't mislead yourself. You won't wind up with a preconception either. Be sure to check in with me, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Be sure to get on my website, thelyguy.com. Find out about the upcoming classes I got. Got great on-demand courses. Take a look up in the top of the navigation bar there, Learning Tools. Find the on-demand courses. You can take 1-hour blocks. Be sure to go to LYGUY list, and be sure when you click on it, it's double opt-in. You click on it, add your name, it's going to send you confirmation. You got to hit that to be sure you're approved to get onto the list. It's to prevent a lot of spamming going on the list. So until we get back next time for tip number, I believe it's 89, this is Stan Walters reminding you, be safe.